Hi everybody, this is Judy at Judy in the Kitchen. We know that vacuum blenders are becoming the thing to invest in these days. It used to be that we had blenders for standard kitchen appliances, and we used to use them for making milkshakes usually, and maybe a little bit more than that. Now people are drinking smoothies of all sorts and all concoctions for health reasons, convenience reasons, all sorts of reasons there, and they're becoming more and more popular. What we're finding is that the original blenders just don't make smoothies very well. They leave little chunks of greens and fruits and bits of harder to process foods in there, which makes them very undesirable. But high-powered blenders are a relatively new thing on the market, and now vacuum blenders that pull the air out of the blender jar before blending are becoming the increasing trend that's out there. So what are the benefits of vacuum blending? Number one is that we can maximize the nutrients in the foods that have been vacuum blended. Why is that? Well, we do know that oxygen is absolutely necessary for life, but oxygen is also something that can help to degrade food, cause it to spoil, go bad fast. For instance, when you peel a banana, it doesn't take very long before it starts to turn brown. The same thing with an apple and a pear. They will turn brown pretty quickly after you peel the fresh fruit. So removing the oxygen from that blender jar will help to preserve that food and keep it from oxidizing and turning brown. There are some nutrients, especially vitamins C, A, and E, that are easily degraded by exposure to air. So taking the air out of the blender jar before you blend can actually help to prevent those reactions of vitamins C, A, and E from degrading in the process of blending. Okay, so that does help to preserve those nutrients. And a lot of the ingredients that we do put, typically, especially in smoothies, will have a number of vitamins and nutrients in there that could degrade, like the vitamins A and C, and if you put nuts in there, it may have some vitamin E as well. So we want to preserve those nutrients, and studies have shown that if you vacuum blend your smoothie or whatever you're blending is going to have a higher level of nutrients than those that were traditionally blended because of the mixture of air being forced into that mixture during the blending process. In conjunction with that, we also have the preservation of antioxidants in foods that have been vacuum blended. In a 2021 issue of the Journal of Plant Biotechnology, researchers actually compared the effects of vacuum blending and traditional blending on the overall quality and antioxidant properties of apple juice and blueberry juice. The juice was tested after being blended for dissolved oxygen, and it was found that over 80%, that's 83% in the apple juice and 86% in the blueberry juice, of the dissolved oxygen had been removed in the vacuum blending. Comparisons of the antioxidant activity between the vacuum and the traditional blending were made 3 hours, 6 hours, and 12 hours after the blending, and the antioxidants were well preserved with the vacuum blending with little change in antioxidant activity, whereas there was a lot more significant loss in the traditional blending. So right there, I mean, the antioxidants are so critical for our overall health and well-being and keeping us from developing chronic diseases. So if we can preserve those antioxidants, that's a fabulous thing to do. Also, vacuum blending can help to preserve the flavor. When oxygen has been removed before blending, the food maintains its flavor for a longer period of time. Vacuum blended food will taste better than when that same food is traditionally blended. The longer the food is stored, the greater the flavor difference will be realized. If you look on YouTube, you'll see a lot of people have compared the same ingredients, vacuum blended versus traditional blended. They'll leave the jars sitting side by side where you can see them after a certain period of time. And there is definitely a difference in the appearance as well as the flavor, because a lot of times they will taste them and they'll go, ooh, they'll kind of wrinkle their nose when they taste the traditionally blended smoothie, especially after tasting the vacuum blended smoothie. There's also a better texture in your smoothies in particular with vacuum blending. They have a creamier, smoother texture with little, if any, foam on the top, and that foam is formed when air that's in the blender jar gets whipped into that food as it's being ground up and chopped up through the blending process. Traditional blenders cannot get such a smooth texture. Then you'll often find little bits of food throughout the mixture, and some people complain about it being in their teeth and all that sort of thing. And then they'll complain about the foam being on the top. So I do have a vacuum blender, and I can attest to the fact that the texture and the flavor are definitely better when a food is vacuum blended versus the traditional blending method. Also, there's no separation of the ingredients over time. When you vacuum blend, the ingredients are going to hold together in a smooth concoction for a much longer period of time than if you traditionally blend. When you traditionally blend, you're going to wind up with a watery layer on the bottom in a relatively short period of time, and the more thick ingredients, the more solid ingredients are going to tend to float toward the top. And so you're going to have two layers to your smoothie or cake mix or whatever it is that you are blending up and allowing it to sit for a little bit of time. So you won't see that separation in the vacuum blending like you would in the traditional blending. Colors are also preserved with vacuum blending. And again, that has to do with the fact that oxygen is removed from the blender jar before the blending takes place. And again, why do bananas turn brown when you peel them? It's because they are interacting with the oxygen in the air. And so the color in vacuum blended food is going to remain a nice vibrant color versus when it is made in a traditional blender or sits over a period of time, it's going to tend to turn brown and dull looking and just not look as appetizing as what it did when it was first made. Another benefit of vacuum blending is the fact that you can store the blended item for a longer period of time because they are blended with a lack of air and particular oxygen. The deterioration that would occur with traditional blending just doesn't happen. And so that way you can make blends in advance for a number of days. Some people will blend for a week at a time. With the vacuum blending, the smoothies and other foods that you might blend will last longer. You know, I talk a lot about smoothies made with blenders and vacuum blenders in particular, but there's other things that you can make with a vacuum blender, and they will keep equally as well as the smoothies do. Oh, you could make baby food, you could make a blended soup, you could make pesto and spreads and tomato sauce and other sauces. Pâtés, you could do cake mixes, ice cream, salad dressings, and more. It's a matter of whatever it is that you have that you need to blend up at the time. It could easily be made with a vacuum blender. Well, I do hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions or comments below. Take care and bye for now. Happy blending.